All right, we're here. Second episode of just chatting here with Flashgit this time. Flashgit been around in I guess our community, watching the stream for a while. Said some things during Nolan's interview that kind of caught my eye. Said he'd be interested on coming on. I'm definitely interested in getting to know Flashgit a little bit more here. So yeah, maybe a quick introduction from you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Dex. I go by Flashgit on gaming platforms and in games. My real name is Elijah. You can call me Elijah or Eli or even Flash, whatever. It doesn't matter. And I, I first came to this channel like most people because it was the only Hearthstone classic content, that was around and regularly being streamed and stuff, and people talking about the new meta compared to how it was before and things like that. And um, yeah, I suppose some of the other stuff. I am a mental health professional, a hypnotist, and I like to consider myself to be pretty good at it. And we will get into that maybe a little bit later, or maybe even right away. I don't know, but that's me.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the number one thing that jumped out at me that I saw in chat the last time I talked with Nolan. You said you're a hypnotist, and I was like, okay, I've got like 100 million questions about, what is that like? What
Oh,
does that mean? All that kind of stuff. Um,
well, fire away in your own time.
yeah, I mean, I know enough to know that it's not like waving a pocket watch in front of someone's face and making them balk like a chicken or whatever, what you see in cartoons and stuff growing up.
Hmm.
That, sometimes it's used for uh, doing things help people lose weight or stop smoking or whatever. But that's like
Right.
all that I've really heard from it, right? Very high level explanation is like this is a job. This is somebody you can go to. So yeah, I was hoping you could just kind of, for starters, walk us through. What is it like? What is a day as a hypnotist like, or a session, or a client comes to you? How do you deal with it? That kind of thing.
Okay. So, first, let's start with what is hypnosis, right? Hypnosis, the technical definition is bypassing the critical factor of the conscious mind and establishing effective, selective, sorry, it's the establishment of selective thinking, right? So the critical factor is like your conscious mind, right? Or the guardian at the gate of your conscious mind, and its job is to keep things that are coming into your mind consistent with what's already inside. And by that, I mean your beliefs and your values and things like that, right? So if somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, Eli, you know, you're an idiot," and I have lots of experiences in my mind that tell me that I'm not an idiot, then it's very easy for me to reject what they say. But if what they say is in line with something that I do believe myself or hold inside, then that will go in, and it's kind of like a suggestion in a way, right? So hypnosis is process where you change somebody's state of mind. That's a very broad way of putting it, right? So, like, if you consider what a state of mind is, like anger, boredom, joy, whatever, they're all states of mind. And so hypnosis is the process of changing that state from one to another. And trance, which is the goal of hypnosis, to get somebody into trance to bypass that critical factor and establish that selective thinking so that you can give them suggestions for change, um, is just another state. Trance is just another state, just like joy or happiness or sadness or anger or whatever. So the average day for me is pretty relaxed. I kind of just do whatever I'm doing, play some games and do some research. And I'm spending a lot of time studying and reading that kind of thing. When a client approaches me or a potential client approaches me, I will talk to them a little bit about what it is they want, what it is they think is the problem, and just sort of get a good lay of the land, in terms of what's happening in their life and what they are calling a problem. And then we're going to kind of find out, how did they reach that conclusion that it's a problem, and the thinking behind that led to that conclusion. And then maybe we can change the way they're thinking or change the perspective somehow to help them realize that they have many more options than they think they do, so that they can move forward in a positive way.
Okay. Okay. Definitely a lot to unpack there, but I think that gives a pretty good picture of things.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you're trying to, I guess, shift people into this this new state, this new emotion, this trance, right? And I think we all probably have an idea of what that means, but I know when I think about it, I think, okay, if I'm in a trance, I'm kind of dazed, not really thinking about anything, or maybe fixated on one thing or whatever. But in the context of hypnotism, can you maybe elaborate a bit more? What is that emotion? What is that state?
Okay. So first of all, trance has many forms. Every emotion is a trance. If you think about um, have you ever been really angry? You see everything through angry eyes and you interpret everything through anger filters. And then the reaction that you have towards your environment is an angry reaction based on how you interpreted the data through the filter of anger. Right? If you're someone who's generally a nice person and you're not very violent at all or not aggressive at all, when somebody really makes you angry, then you might shout at them, scream at them, swear at them, or even become aggressive, like physically aggressive. That is selective thinking. So in essence, you are in a trance, but you're in a trance of anger, right? In the same way, if you're like so head over heels in love with someone that they can do no wrong, like sometimes you'll have people tell you, oh, this person's no good for you, and they're like, oh no, you don't know them the way I do,
Right, right.
and that's also a selective thinking. You're kind of choosing what to pay attention to and what not to, and it's through the filter of your emotions. So all of the emotions are trances, and as human beings we go in and out of trance all day every day, and it's never not happening, right? It's like you're always in a trance of some sort. It's just a question of depth and how deep that trance is. If you're only a little bit frustrated, it's not that deep a trance. If you go into full-blown anger, then that's a deeper trance.
Right, right.
So the hypnotic trance, or the sleepwalking kind of state, or somnambulism as they call it, that most people think of. They think about this kind of like you're kind of out and the other person's like whispering in your ear, right? That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's generally a state of relaxation. It's generally a state of a clear mind. It's kind of, you can liken it to meditation if you like. That is one way of thinking about it. Self-hypnosis and meditation are very similar
Okay.
in terms of where your mind goes and how kind of quiet things become. You never actually go to sleep. You'll hear a lot of hypnotists use the word sleep. It's
Hmm.
kind of, it's more for the shows and for the camera than anything else.
Right, right.
You don't actually go to sleep. If anything, you're more aware when you're in trance than you are when you're, quote, awake, right?
Hmm.
So it's not so much that you, how can I say it? It's not so much that you are not paying attention to things, it's that you don't care so much. It's like the conscious part of you, your awareness, instead, like if you imagine that your awareness now, your conscious mind is kind of at the front, and wherever you're paying attention to, wherever your eyes go, whatever you see, whatever you hear, blah blah blah, that's like inside your conscious awareness.
Hmm.
And then all the other stuff that's in your subconscious or your unconscious mind, that's like running in the background, like your food is digesting, your heart rate is going, your blood pumping, all that stuff is happening, but you're not actually aware of it happening. It's kind of in the background. So what happens is when you go into trance, it kind of switches, and the conscious mind kind of goes to the background and just becomes like an observer, while
Mm-hmm.
the unconscious mind comes more to the foreground and kind of pays attention to the suggestions and the metaphors and whatever that are being given to the person.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially linking it to like meditation, and then meditation. I think you can also link to other things. Just even taking a minute to take a deep breath, or just relax a
Yeah,
little. Try to
it's all coming back to altering your state, right?
right.
That's what
So
it is.
something that I think everybody's kind of experienced. And yeah, all right, now you start to describe it as if everything is sort of a state, a trance, then yeah, oh, okay. I can now conceptualize this, I think, a bit better. So if you were just going to take off the top of your head, like a typical problem someone might come to you with, maybe something you've dealt with a few times, what would that be?
I can't stop biting my nails, or something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
Right.
And I think you said something good right before we went live. Just to FYI to everyone else, this is not like medical advice or whatever. Something you should take. I just really here to learn about the practice. I'm very very curious about this. So I would love to get an idea of, okay, somebody comes in, they say, yeah, I can't stop biting my nails, it's driving me crazy, it's like a compulsion or whatever, I keep doing it, I wish I didn't keep doing it. How do you then take that and hope to make progress with it?
Well, I would first of all ask them, you know, when do you do it? When and where do you bite your nails? And most likely people will be like, oh, I do it all the time. And that is kind of an example of this self-hypnosis at work, because they couldn't be biting their nails all the time, like 24 hours a day, kind of every second of the day. Like, so I might ask a question like, oh, do you bite them while you sleep? And they'd say,
Mm-hmm.
well, no, I don't bite them while I'm sleeping because I'm sleeping. And I'd say, what about when you're in a room full of people or at a party or some kind of thing like that? And they'd be like, oh, no, 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 I don't bite them when I'm in public, just when I know no one's watching. So then we kind of go into like, okay, well, how often are you in front of people where you wouldn't be doing it versus how often are you on your own when you might catch yourself doing it? And they actually begin to unhook that idea of it's happening all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like me getting my foot in the door, because then I might ask them a question that's a little bit hypnotic and a little bit confusing, and I'd say something like, well, okay, so how don't you do it when you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to turn around and say like, like, what do you mean? I said, well, you're not, the times when you're awake and not biting your nails, how do you do that?
Right, like it's
Because
something that you probably never consider yourself. You're just like, I don't know. I
exactly.
haven't been doing it in those times. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But not doing it is still doing something,
Right.
right? Right. So then we kind of it's like tapping into a resource that they kind of already have, but they're unaware that they have it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we can start to get that's kind of like the initial sort of process of just starting to get people to think in a slightly different way, and get them to realize that actually um, when I'm not biting my nails, I'm actively it's something I'm doing. I'm not biting them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So there is a part of them somewhere inside in their unconscious that knows how to not do that,
Okay.
right? And if we can then create friends with that part of them and kind of build a rapport with that part and get them to um, become more, how can I say, more active in not doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and also explain to the other and find out the part that is biting, what is it achieving, and what is it, what do you get out of biting your nails? Oh, it gives me something to do when I'm worrying, or oh, it's something that I can control, like I can really like kind of tidy up and clean up my nails and something, because like my life's a mess, but this is something that I could just kind of, straighten it out straight away, kind of thing. So okay, so then
Right.
we kind of look at like what's the deeper issue behind that, what is it they want to sort out in their life, what is it, and then it gets into the whole session thing, and you're very much into like a psychological session at that point. Do you know what I mean? Trying to figure out
Yeah.
how they got to where they are.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm hearing from this. Like, I haven't actively like participated in therapy, but I love watching Healthy Gamer, right? Dr. K,
Hmm.
right? Psychologist goes into a lot of different stuff, even though it's not a real session. And just seeing some other people talk about it who've been in the field, podcasts, that kind of thing. And there's a common theme from it, which is that a lot of times they're not the ones sort of solving your issues. They're not like, hey, this is bad, don't do that. Because a lot of times we know that, like, hey, don't be depressed, or do this to not be depressed. It's unpacking a lot of the things yourself. And so they're asking questions, and they're kind of like taking you on this journey to you figure things out, and they might nudge you in the right direction, but a lot of it is this kind of like self-discovery thing, and that's what I'm hearing a lot of here.
Yeah.
So in what way does it kind
I
of
think that's actually go ahead, sorry, finish your question.
well, I was just going to ask, like, in what way does it kind of differ then? Because I imagine, like, the way you get to that, it sounds already a
Mhm.
little bit different, but yeah, it almost just sounds like, a classic therapy session or something.
Oh no, no. Okay, so first of all, I think it's massively, massively important to let the other person have their epiphany
Mhm.
and have their kind of aha moment, right? You can't you well, not that you can't. You it's best not to, in my experience, spoon feed somebody the answers to their problem and how to go about thinking. Like if you turn around and tell someone that, if you come at them from the frame that I'm the expert and I'm smarter than you, and you should listen to what I have to say because I know the answers, then you're kind of robbing them of that experience of stumbling upon some information and having that kind of epiphany moment where they're like, oh my God, like I can't go back to thinking about things the old way anymore. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
that's like a beautiful moment, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
I mean, if
so
you discover something yourself, it all makes sense to you. Whereas, yeah, it's like a professor or something can lecture you about a subject, and you're probably right, but it's still like the pieces don't really fit yet. I
there
have
is
to
a
put them
national
together.
there is a natural pushback, right? That when like if somebody gives you advice, it's almost instinctive to like push back against it, like who are you to tell me how to do things, kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
It's
Yeah.
almost yeah. It's kind of not. I mean, the number of times I can tell you while I was growing up, like my mom would say something to me and give me some advice and tell me, and really good advice as well. But I would just ignore it because she said it. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like, and you would like, well, no, I'm my own man. I'm a big boy now. I don't need to listen to you and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's one thing, right? I do think it's important to kind of guide them to it without and let them have their moment. And the number of times, and this is something that's very common as well, that someone will come away from a hypnosis session and then they'll tell their friends, or they'll say in the questionnaire afterwards or something after a week or so, yeah, I never really was asleep. I don't think I was in trance, and I'm not really sure that it worked. But I do feel different, but it's nothing to do with the hypnosis. It's just I had this thought, and then I had this kind of aha moment, and then things started to change for me. But it was nothing to do with the hypnosis,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's kind of what they think, and you have to be kind of cool with that. You have to be kind of cool with letting the people take credit for it, and you not taking credit for it. As long as you get paid, you should be happy,
Right.
and be all right with that. You know what I mean? That's one thing. In terms of how is it different from conventional therapy, it's just so much quicker. It's just so much quicker because um, the conscious mind really. I mean, don't get me wrong, the conscious mind is amazing, and I love it, and it gets a bit of a bad rep from hypnotists, saying like, oh, it's always the part that it wants to know everything. If you consider like, the conscious mind is like the captain of a ship,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind is the crew and the ship itself. So like the ship might be like the body or something, but the body is also part of your unconscious mind, right? And the cat is imagine the captain trying to like run the whole ship on his own or on her own, and just not like allow the crew to do anything, like someone who's like micromanaging all the time and getting involved with all the different parts. That's not really how it's supposed to run. The captain's supposed to kind of sit in their chair or do wherever they stand, and they give the order. They give the order to the helmsman that this is which way we're going to go, and they give the order to the guys who are going to row the boat to change row the oars, sorry, and change the sails and whatever else they're going to do. And it's like a team effort. Now, the crew or your unconscious mind will never override the captain, right? So let's say, for example, that I had a headache, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, my head's hurting and it's not going away and it's not going away and what the hell? It's just right kind of thing. And the more I keep checking on my headache, is it still there? Is it still there? Is it still there? The longer it's going to persist,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's from neuroscience. So the more often you check if something is still there, you actually stabilize the system and slow the rate of change,
Right.
right? Whereas if you were able to put your attention on something else, the headache might well go away really quickly. And so the unconscious mind or the crew are like, oh, Elijah's paying attention to this pain in his head. It must be important. So we're not going to get involved. We're not going to override the captain. We're not going to, because he's paying attention to it, he must be doing it for a reason. Because your unconscious mind, it doesn't think in logic and reason and things like that. It thinks in feelings, in emotions. It's very much like a 6 or 7 year old child that is experiential first and logic second kind of thing. And so, but if I get engaged in doing something else, let's say, I start a discussion with someone, or I go to do some groceries or something, and I get busy doing something else, and my attention is then taken up by that, the crew will come in the background and fix whatever problem it is and make my headache go away. Because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh, he's not paying attention to it anymore. Now we can take care of it,
Right.
right? So your unconscious mind knows how to stop a headache. It knows how to stop you bleeding if you cut yourself. It knows how to, pull reserves out of your energy when you're tired and give you that second burst. It knows how to do all these things, but it doesn't want to try and circumvent or go against what it thinks the captain wants.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Does-
that all makes sense, and we've all. Again, I think putting it into terms that we can all kind of relate to, I immediately thought of that. Yeah, it's like you have a horrible gash, or like you get smashed in the arm or something, and you can just sort of like pinch your hand or something like that. Like, think about this pain over here that I'm causing, not the excruciating pain over here. And yeah, simple trick that works every time. And
Yeah, it's a diversion of one's attention, right?
right,
And that's key.
right,
What are
and
you focusing on?
yeah, and then like I've taken a fair number of biology courses, pretty interested in it in the day, and it's like the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system.
Hmm.
What bodily functions you have, what's autonomous, and what just kind of happens in the background. It's your breathing and all that kind of stuff. Exactly like so, your heart's beating constantly, right? It's insane. But as soon as you start to focus on something, you're aware of the fact that you have a tongue in your mouth and that you're breathing. It's like really hard to stop focusing on, okay, now I'm inhaling, now I'm exhaling, oh God. And yeah, you got to distract yourself. And so, I think all of that makes
Yeah.
sense. And it's easy to take something that's that relatable and yeah, start to go in the direction of sure fixing a problem like biting your nails or whatever.
So coming back to like states, right? I think one of the biggest problems that people have is like people are not majority of people. I am of course generalizing here, but the majority of people are not happy in terms of that their life is not quite going the way they want it to yet, right? But at the same time, they're not unhappy enough to do something about it. And they're kind of caught in this kind of gray limbo zone, right? And they wait. As a general rule, most people tend to wait until things get really bad and they get a little bit desperate or a little bit they have like an absolute necessity to change, and then that's when they're going to make their decisions and that's when they're going to take action. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem with that is that most likely in that moment you're in a bad state, you're probably under pressure, you're probably stressed out, that kind of thing. And if you think about it, like just to put it in a like just to put the ridiculous spin on it, like if you were in a building that was burning down, and would you look around and look at like the flames and the walls and be like, I wonder how it started.
Yeah, you're
What
like,
should we
I'm
do
not
about
on
this? There's
fire
nothing wrong.
yet. This
No,
is this
it'd be
is all
like it'd be
right.
like get the fuck out the building. Sorry,
Yeah,
excuse my language. It's like
yeah,
get the hell out of the building, right? And you know, like once you're outside, then you can figure out that stuff. What led to the fire? What went wrong? What can we do better next time? That kind of thing, right? And
mm-hmm.
so in the same way as one general piece of advice that I can give to everybody is, if you're going to make important decisions, life decisions, do it when you're happy, do it when you're excited, do it when you're calm, confident, and relaxed. Don't do it when don't make those kind of big decisions when you're under pressure. Don't make them when you're feeling stressed out, because your decision making will be affected by your state, and then the action you take is going to be affected by your decision making, and then where the result that you get is going to be based on the action you take. So it all starts with making big choices, or the more important choices and life decisions. You should do them when you're relaxed, when you're calm, when you're enjoying yourself, when you're generally happy you
Right,
know
and that makes sense. It's another thing that I think every human is just kind of wired to do. Is reach that sort of state of equilibrium, like you said. People may not always be that happy or satisfied, but the brain is also wired to kind of to reel you in if you get too happy, and if you get too sad, it's to accept it, move on, and just this is where you are now. And so you're very often in these states where you're just kind of whatever. You don't really have a direction or where to go.
hmm
But I quite like that when you're there, you could be rich and famous and have everything you thought you ever wanted. You often feel like you need something else. You got to challenge yourself, or you got to learn something, or try something new, or whatever it is. I like that. To try to take it in that state instead of sure waiting until you're on fire, kind of thing.
hmm hmm I think it comes down, another big point is it comes down to like, who do you want to be? A lot of times when people have a problem, they think, what do I do? What do I do? How do I fix it? And they're kind of on the action part of it. And it's not so much what should I do or what should you do? It's who do you want to be? Because the thing about any kind of coaching or therapy that I do, it's like I'm not aiming to get people to a point where, life will never bother them again, because that's just not possible, dude. Life is life. And sometimes, it's going to throw you a curveball, and you're going to have to deal with a situation, right? Or a circumstance. The question is, when the shit hits the fan, like, who are you going to be in that moment? Are you going to be the guy that curls up and gets depressed or hides away, or panics, or are you going to be the person who stands up, takes responsibility? Are you going to be the person who reacts in a positive way? So that's really a big part of the coaching that I'm doing, is not only to treat whatever symptom somebody's coming in with, or help them get over some kind of automatic behavior like nail biting or whatever. But like, if we go back to our example, let's say this person was nail biting because they were worried that their life was a mess or whatever. Like, once we can deal with like nail biting and stuff, then it's like, well, how do you want to be when you look at something, some aspect of your life, and you feel like it's a mess? How do you want to be in that situation? And then we kind of, to use a loose term, program that in, right? We're gonna suggest it to the unconscious mind. We're gonna get a level of agreement that yes, this is what we do want, and it's in the best interest of the person. And then we're going to do repetitions, and you can learn really, really, really quickly. And that's why hypnosis is amazing, is because it's just so much faster than pretty much every other modality that I can think of in terms of learning or breaking habits or creating new habits and that kind of thing. It's just like they say, the average therapy session takes like 200 hours to get what they classify as a breakthrough. Hypnosis takes on average 6. Right, so it's like a massive difference.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I like what you're saying too about the whole who do you want to be going forward? What kind of person do you want to be? Because you can't anticipate all these situations. Immediately, my mind goes to diet. Like, one of the things I see people make a lot of mistakes with. Yeah, I'm big into like fitness, nutrition, that kind of stuff. Is that they do exactly what you said, the focus on the symptom, right? Oh, I'm overweight, or I don't have enough muscle on my body. I want to have a six-pack. I want to be slim, whatever. And so that's what pushes people to, I'm going to, only eat grapefruit for a month, or I'm going to go on the juicing diet. And it's like, it's not sustainable. You're not going to be the guy who eats grapefruit every day of his life and be happy and have a six-pack and everything's good. You've got to find a routine. You've got to find a way to be able to have the food that you enjoy to make you happy. You want some pizza, you like ice cream, you drink a beer, cool. Fit it into your diet, and then the rest of it's got to make sense to actually, reach your goals, kind of thing. And the only way to maintain that is to have something that you'll actually stick to, that you'll actually, be able to maintain.
Yeah, I think the key thing you said there was sustainable. It has to be something. It's not so much about, oh, I'm going to do this diet for 6 months, but then what happens when the 6 months is over? Are you going to go back to the way you were, or are you going to?
Exactly.
It's something that this is where this, and it has been a bit of a buzz phrase that's been kind of thrown around, but it is about kind of like a lifestyle choice. You're choosing like, hey, I'm going to live this way. I'm going to eat this way, I'm going to exercise this way, and it has to be, coming back to that word, sustainable for a long period of time, so that you can become the best you that you want to be. Not so much what other people expect of you, but whatever it is you want from yourself. That's what we're striving for. We want people to be genuinely comfortable being themselves and not really ashamed or fearful of showing that real self to the world, because that's where I think geniuses and inspirational things and super artistic things, that's where they come from, when people are free to like really express who they really are.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And if it was as simple as like you said, at the end of that diet, you go back to what you're doing. If it was as simple as treating the symptom, if I wanted to be happy all the time, then I would just inject heroin into my eyeball every day, and I'd be happy for every day of my life, right? But it's also not sustainable. Lots of really interesting points there. But something that I get really curious about when I hear
this rabbit hole is really big, into it.
For sure it is. And I want to, I guess, take a tangential step to it. Obviously something you're very interested in, and if we're talking about other areas of life, and you're able to kind of rip that stuff off pretty quick. What got you interested in it? I think of someone who's young, they want to be an astronaut, and then as they get older, it's like, maybe like an engineer, maybe I want to make video games, whatever it is. There's always like some goal and some very like easily defined path. Go to school, do this, whatever. Yeah, becoming a hypnotist. One, even learning about it to get interested in it, and then two, what the hell do you do to even become a hypnotist? Like that's fascinating to me.
Okay. So, when I was younger, I went through a period of depression, right? And I didn't know anything about the kind of stuff that I know now, and that depression lasted like 9 years, right? From 2001 to around 2010, I had very little social life, very much a loner, um, and I used to stay up at night and just kind of, be really lonely and really upset and really sad about certain things. And eventually, with the help of very good friends and a good family, and I'm very lucky. We managed to pull me out of it and kind of get me back to something that we could call normal, right? But it took a while, and it took for me to admit that I had a problem in the first place and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of came out of it the long and hard way. Then I got interested in like I was really upset at like how much time I wasted. I felt like I wasted a lot of time. 9 years. We're talking like age 21 through to 30. Those are like your prime years as well, that
Sure,
kind of
sure.
thing. A lot of my friends had gotten married. Some of them had kids now, and like it was like the whole world. By the time I was ready to come out of my room and go outside and play again, the world had changed, right? So I got really interested in catch-up mechanics, like how can I learn faster? How can I do things quicker? How can I climb the corporate ladder faster? How can I become more influential? How can I become more persuasive? How can I, um, find a relationship and make it last? How can and it all came down to like communication or I don't know if you heard about NLP. It came like the first thing I came across was this guy Tony Robbins. I'm sure many people heard of him. I
Sure,
don't know if
sure.
you have or not.
Yeah, yeah, big
But he's a
self-help
motivational
guy.
speaker.
Hmm.
Yeah, big self-help guy, big sort of motivational speaker, and he practices something called NLP or neuro linguistic programming, and the two, like NLP and hypnosis, are like they're like this. Like it's really, really, you know, a lots of overlap there, right? Um, and so I kind of got into that self-help thing, just kind of trying to better myself and trying to get a shortcut to climbing ladders and making money and settling down and starting a family and all that stuff. I wanted to shortcut it all, and that's kind of how I got into hypnosis because I heard that it was good for accelerated learning. I heard it was good for learning how to be more persuasive and influential. But it wasn't until I was in the classes, in the trainings, learning how to do the techniques and the principles behind the techniques that I thought, this thing is amazing for like uh, helping people change and helping people to overcome like phobias and fears or obsessive compulsive behaviors or things like that. And that's kind of when I realized, okay, I want to help people because I don't want other people to have to go through sadness and depression and stay there as long as I was there. Do you know what I mean? Because I was there for a hell of a long time.
Hmm.
And so that kind of became my focus. Just trying to help people to get out of it quicker and get their life back on track quicker. And, by chance I had a natural flair for it. And so, when the pandemic started in early 2020, at least when the first lockdown hit the UK in early 2020, I started doing Zoom meetings online with like some of the students that were in the trainings with me where I learned, and classmates and things like that. And it soon got to a point where like it was almost like I was teaching a class online, and then one thing led to another, and since then I've done a few trainings as well where I kind of explain to people the principles or how to go about thinking about things, or you know that because I think like the problem is never the problem. When somebody comes to you with a problem, the problem is not what they think it is. The problem is usually how they are trying to fix their problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're going about it the wrong way, you know. And so once you can, and there's certain beliefs, right? There's certain beliefs that I have and hold that make it impossible for me to think that there is a no-win situation, right? Or that this person's screwed and there's nothing I can do to help them. It's like, for example, one of the beliefs is like all we are is changing, like second to second, moment to moment. Every now moment is different and we are always changing, right? So it's just a question of, are you noticing how you're changing? And what are you paying attention to? Are you still paying attention to the headache again and again to make yourself think that it's still there? Or are you now paying attention in the grocery store trying to figure out what you want for dinner or whatever, and then suddenly it goes away and you didn't even necessarily notice that you changed in that moment? So really it's about kind of shifting attention and learning people, teaching people, sorry, learning, my bad English, teaching people how to notice the things that they are not noticing. And I think it's something that I got pretty good at. And so that's how then I went from, being someone who was just a coach and I don't really like the word therapist, so I use coach. Being someone who's a coach and helping people with problems to then progressing on to teaching hypnosis and teaching ways of giving suggestions and things like that. And that's kind of how we got to where I am now.
Okay. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think a similar path, a lot of people end up with kind of later stages in life, mid to later stages, where you find out what you really want to do, and usually it's based on some kind of personal experiences or whatever. I know, I feel like I'm very much the same. My goals and everything like that are all based off of my upbringing, my experiences. I like to help others, for the fact that it's helping people to avoid negative experiences I've had before, and it sounds very much like where it comes from with you as well.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. And there's definitely there's definitely like a very rewarding feeling, when you get through to someone or you see their eyes light up and stuff, and you realize that they're thinking differently, or that they can't go back to thinking the same way about all the have you ever had that moment, Dex, where something happened or something clicked in your mind, or the penny drops or whatever, and suddenly it's like you have to shift the way you look at things, and you can't go back to not seeing it the way you were before. You ever
right,
had that kind of
yes,
experience? Like an
yes,
epiphany, right?
yeah,
Um, and that's really really, really rewarding when you see that in someone else,
yeah.
right?
I totally agree. Yeah, especially if it's something where you kind of know the feelings that maybe they've had before, and so when they make that shift, it's kind of like brings you back to that moment a little bit. Um, oh yeah, my bad. Typed that wrong. This is Flashgit for anyone who's just popping in now. Not
Flash
flash it.
shit.
Please don't flash it. That's I
Please
believe
don't
that's
flash it.
TOS.
Please
Yeah.
don't flash it, flash. Yeah,
But no,
we're safe.
what I was going to ask about is something that often pops into my mind. You talked about like the pandemic, and I hear lots of things specifically in that time frame about maybe mental issues that crop up with people, whether it's depression or anxiety or a wealth of mental illnesses that kind of crop up. But I think it's also been something just in my lifetime that I've seen really get talked about a lot more. When I was younger, mental health issues just it's like people were crazy or not crazy. You didn't really
Right.
talk about anything in between, and then it starts to become more normalized, and then I think a lot of people start to realize like, oh, this is maybe describing me or something I'm going through, and it's gotten a lot more personal to people over time. but I
It's much
often
more. People are much more accepting of therapy now, right?
they
You know?
are,
Yeah.
and more willing to talk about it just with their peers, friends, family, stuff like that. But I kind of wonder, like, if you've got any sense or take on this. Uh, how much of the rise in like talking about it and dealing with it and all that is actually a rise in the occurrence of a lot of these mental health issues, and how much is just like we're learning more, and so we're just becoming more open to it. But it's always kind of been there in the background before.
Hmm. So, like, I'm not a fan of the labels, right? So there are a lot of labels, and at one point OCD became a thing, and then another point ADHD became a thing, and maybe a little while before that, what's the one? PTSD became a thing, right? So like, there are all these kind of different diagnoses, right? And the more you label something, and the more you kind of prescribe, especially if you prescribe medication for those things, like antidepressants or that kind of thing, um, it can become a little bit unhealthy if you go too far down that road. Now, I'm not having a go at modern medicine or anything like that. I think modern medicine is great, and they're definitely doing a good job. But I think sometimes um, it's just an opinion, right? It's just an opinion. But sometimes doctors go too far with diagnosis and things like that. And because doctors are such high authorities, we tend to believe everything they say without question. And that's like a massive hypnotic operator. Authority is like a massive hypnotic operator, right? So I do think that I don't think there's more occurrence. I think it's that more people have access to places where they can talk about it. So if you consider also like the rise of the internet, the rise of social media, I think people always had problems. But now they have ways of expressing it. Maybe they write about it in their blog, maybe they share a post on Facebook, someone else replies in a comment or gives some good advice and get a couple thumbs up or whatever, right? So I do think that I don't think it's happening more. I do think that we are more easily able to express and share and kind of help each other through the various media mediums that we have. And I do think, though, that once something becomes like a buzzword, you know, like somebody says, like, "Oh, I have, you know, some symptom of certain diagnoses or something," and that kind of catches on, then more people are like, "Oh, yeah, I have that as well," and I don't, I think that's not helpful.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, like I've got
right. So,
OCD. I need all my books in order, and then yeah, someone who's actually got
yeah,
OCD is like,
like
no, I
what
wash
is
my hands
actual OCD, right?
120 times a day. Yeah, I open and close the door 53 times when I enter a room. It's like, yeah, that's like a little different. Um,
Yeah, like an actual OCD versus um, what most people would say. Oh yeah, I have a little OCD about um, if I spin around one way, I feel the urge to automatically spin around the other way. Otherwise,
right.
I'm not. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Hmm.
That's not really an OCD. I wouldn't consider. Like, I'm not here to tell anybody that the condition they think they have is not real. I'm sure it is real for them, at least in the moment. But if you speak to a hypnotist, it might not be real for very long.
Right. Right.
It's all like how you look at it, and you see, in any given moment, you can. There's like three choices to make in any given moment in time, right? It's what does this mean? What am I going to focus on? And what will I do next? Right? In any given moment, you have these three choices. And if you don't know that you're already making them, you're already making the choices. What does this mean is a choice. Am I being punished? Am I unlucky? Is this just the roll of the dice? Like, if somebody cuts you up in traffic, does it mean they're an asshole? Does it mean, maybe they're rushing their wife to the hospital because she's about to give birth,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, like, people can actually choose what their experience means. And a lot of people don't realize that,
Yeah.
right?
That.
That you can choose what your experience means. And when you can do, then you have like, oh, what was the other one? What am I going to focus on?
Mhm.
Is, even if something is, quote, not great, like, maybe there was an asshole, maybe they did do something to upset you on purpose and with malice intent or something. But what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on this person's bullying me, or are you going to focus on something more positive or something that's much more healthy for you, right? And then what will you do next is going to come after that, right? So even if you don't know you're making these choices moment to moment, you're always making these choices. And being, I think awareness is like the biggest thing, right? Being aware and understanding that you are in, like, somewhat in control. Like, you're never fully in control of your life, because, like I said earlier, life is life, and sometimes it will throw you a curveball and you're going to have to deal with situations. But
Mhm.
when situations arise, how you react to them is very much a choice, and is very much in your hands. They say that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Yeah. It's
You know,
interesting. I recently saw something, um, like I guess a study where somebody had spoken with, or they'd asked these people who were near death, right, late stages of their life, uh, to reflect on their life and give kind of life lessons or inputs, and they wanted to get some kind of commonality between them. And I'm
hmm
I'm still pretty young guy, but learning as I go along. And some of the things they're saying, I think might sound very obvious, but it's like, okay, these are things that I'm targeting. It was like, don't live with regrets kind of thing. It was like, I wish that I had, done the things I wanted to do and not just like work this job, or, realizing the importance of family, stuff like that. But one of the things that they said, and something that I would say I'm probably not very in tune with, it was a very common theme among these people. They said they realized late in life that happiness is a choice. And yeah, I can certainly see a ton of scenarios in my life where, yeah, just like you talked about, getting cut off in traffic, or whether something bad that happens or something maybe even inconsequential, but I've taken it in such a way that it's maybe not so healthy, and I could easily just put another spin on it. And yeah, it really jumped out at
yeah.
me as something that, if
You end up
I
ruining
don't
your
notice
own
it,
day.
probably a lot of people don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, because even, I mean, it's a reflex, or it's, like, you might have it, think, but it's okay, and as long as you don't ruminate there, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because that's the thing. There is a study that says any emotional state, it will kind of rise and fall within, like, we're talking seconds, like probably less than 30 seconds, right?
Hmm.
If you don't throw more logs on the fire, right? So, like, if the let's say you get angry, someone cuts you up in traffic or whatever, right? Um, if you just kind of sit with the anger and just observe it, then it's going to disappear as quickly as it came on.
Hmm.
But if you say, oh, that means, and then that means, and then, and you kind of go into it and review it. Remember what I said earlier about the more often you check on the same thing, you slow the rate of change,
Right.
right? So the more you reflect on what just happened and why it made you angry and what was wrong with that situation and why this guy or this girl should be punished for cutting you off, and the more you repeatedly go there, the longer you're going to stabilize that state and cause the anger to last longer than have it just kind of rise and fall.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Getting fixated on things. I'm certainly I'm the kind of person where if something starts me off in a bad mood in the day, I'll be in the shower having this like invisible argument in my head that obviously gets you nowhere, and it just keeps you focused on that kind of thing. But it's exactly what you said about going to the store or whatever. As soon as I'm done with that, I sit down. Am I going to game? Am I going to, make breakfast? Whatever the thing is. Then suddenly it's like, what the hell was I thinking about a minute ago? So, yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah. There is a great trick. You can do a great hack.
Please.
See, your body and your mind are one and the same. It's a feedback loop, right? A lot of people try, once they get into a bad state, anger, depression, sadness, fear, whatever, right? They try to kind of think their way out of it. They're like, oh, I'm gonna think of something positive, or I'm gonna focus on something else. But actually what you can do is shift your posture, right? Because your mind, every state has a posture and a breathing that is associated with it, right? And so if you change your posture, if you would sit more upright or stand more upright, or even like raise your arms in the air like you just won a competition or something, and hold it for like a minute or two, right? Like, you would see your emotional state will change so drastically and so fast that it's actually incredible. There's a really interesting TED talk about it. People can go check it out. It's Power Postures by a lady called Amy Cuddy. Power Postures, if you just search Power Postures and TED on YouTube, you'll find it. And she talks about how, if you hold this posture for like 2 minutes, it actually causes like a 25% bump in your testosterone. Like that kind of thing, and reduces your cortisol, cortisol is like the stress hormone, reduces that by a corresponding 25% as well. And it's amazing, like if you're at a job interview and you're sitting there in the waiting room and you're nervous, if you just excuse yourself and go to the bathroom, go into a cubicle and do this for 2 minutes, you're going to come out, you're going to be much more relaxed, much more, because you can use your physiology to control your psychology. Rather than trying to focus and think your way out of a situation, you can one thing you always have control over is your body. You always have control over your posture. You always have control over your breathing. So you can use that to shortcut the negative state that you're in and break the loop, and then go in a direction that's much more conducive to where you want to go and the result you're trying to get.
Right. It's so funny that you actually bring that up. I had stumbled across this YouTube video that kind of touches on a similar thing. Google in its almighty presence knows that I have bad posture, I guess, and starts recommending me videos for that. And it's like, oh, when your neck is tense, this is what you should do. And it's like, all right, creepy, but I'll take a look. And made a lot of sense. This guy goes into, your instinct is to stretch, it's to massage it, and it's gonna feel good in the moment. It's gonna relieve it for a bit, but if you really get down to what's happening, it's you're probably subconsciously tensed up for whatever reason. Are you working and maybe you're stressed out by it? Maybe it's just literally being hunched over a computer, that kind of thing, or a lot of people who work over a counter or something like that, you're going to be in this kind of weird hunched over position. And what happens is it very similar to what you're saying. Your body has a neurological response to go, oh, well, clearly this is important, that you've got to be tensed up for the thing that you're doing. And what you should actually do, instead of trying to relax it all the time, is tense it up more. Raise your shoulders up to this exaggerated position of look, now really focus on them, and then let them slowly relax, and you'll feel that dip. Because you're sending a direct response. You're the captain of the ship, being like, hey, shoulders, quit doing that. You really don't need to.
And when you bring them back down, they'll probably go down further than where you were holding them.
They do,
right?
Yeah, it's crazy noticeable. If you do it on one shoulder, it'll sink lower than your other. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it's like taking a moment to explore your full range of motion and sending a message to yourself that, hey, I could actually be this relaxed, right? More so than I have been.
Right.
Yeah. that stuff's really cool. I love all that stuff, man.
Yeah, it really interests me a lot too when you can actually sort of break it down with some, like, I don't know, qualitative evidence, like not to dog on any kind of spirituality or anything. I think there's a lot to be gained from getting into that stuff, and that's why I think, as you said earlier, there's a lot of overlap with things like meditation. But I always get very like fixated on, like, yeah, but why is this working? Why is a deep breath make me feel better or something? And
Right. So
once I hear that
you
reasoning,
want the yeah, you want the neuroscience behind it, right?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
genuinely think it helps because it was sort of following along the same path. Well, if the solution is to sort of directly tell my brain, my neurological system through my body, kind of instructions, it's like using that same captain analogy. It's like, well, did I actually learn how to make a boat move, or am I just sending instructions that somebody told me, like, hey, by the way, this will work? It's like understanding. I think translates to more success, at least for me, because I don't know, I'm just
Yeah.
obsessed with
Um,
that knowledge.
I think different people are different in this regard. Some people are experiential learners, right? They
Mm-hmm.
want to do it first and have the experience. Others like to hear the theory or get the big picture beforehand. And I think it's just a matter of catering to the individual, depending on who you're coaching and what is their preferred style of learning, right?
Right.
That's something that as a presenter or a trainer, you learn to pay attention to that. Like some people are more visual, and you have to give them like diagrams and stuff. Other people are more auditory, and they want to hear the instructions repeated one or two times before they try the exercise. And others are, kinesthetic or like feeling people, and they want to have the experience first and then talk about it afterwards
Mm-hmm.
rather than get all the instructions ahead of time. And you just have to change what you're doing to kind of meet the other person wherever they are in that scenario.
Yeah.
Just kind of cater for your audience in a way.
Yeah, it's something that my girlfriend and I have talked about a lot. She used this example, this thing that drives her crazy. It's just the way she was raised. She's from Korea, much different upbringing than we have here in Canada, but as well, just different families and styles, that kind of thing. And she would go to the case. I always do it, and I guess it's a stereotype. It's a guy thing. It's cold outside.
You cut out for a second, Dex.
Oh, did I cut out? Uh,
I
oh,
well, I for me at least, and different upbringing, and she would always and carry on from there.
oh, different upbringing. I don't know exactly where it left off.
You said you had something about this different upbringing in Korea to here in Canada, and then you were going to say something
Oh,
about tribal.
just yeah. So there's one particular case that would always drive her crazy, and we eventually like talked about it and kind of got this understanding. And yeah, like I was gonna say, I think it's a stereotypical guy thing. It's if it's cold out, but it's kind of like newly cold. It's not like it's the middle of winter, and you think, I don't need a jacket, that kind of thing. It's like, I'll be fine. But she's like, hey, it's cold. Like the weather app says it's cold, you idiot. Wear a jacket. I'm like, I'll be okay. And then we'll go out. I'll not have a jacket, and yeah, sure enough, I'm like, oh, it's cold. Yeah, like I wish I had a jacket. And in her mind, she would always get so frustrated because it's like, I told you that the information was there. It was presented to you. Like, you're a moron. And that kind of stresses her out. Whereas, for me, I've got to fail myself. I'm like, okay, this is a
Right,
lesson learned, but it's only going to sink in when I freeze my ass off today. That kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have to learn it again next winter, right? Next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
like to think
I'm
that
gonna
I learn.
because I'm gonna push myself to like to kind of test to see maybe I'm right this time.
Yeah,
Maybe I
yes,
can survive without the jacket. Yeah, I mean it's completely normal. There are different people, and they measure they measure the information differently. You know, if you consider this, coming back to states again, states is like the biggest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever state you're in, it's like a filtering system, you know, and that's how you can consider a state to be almost like a living organism that wants to survive, right? And it wants to um what's the word? Self-perpetuate as long as possible, right? So when you undergo any kind of shift in state, your the filters on your perception change, and you start to see things a different way, and it changes the priority that you give to the information in your environment, right? So, you know, she's looking at things in one way that, oh, like you said, the weather app is saying this, and I've noticed that that it's beginning to turn, right? But the way you're looking at the information is more like, okay, well, I was out just the day before yesterday or yesterday, and it wasn't that bad, so I could probably get away with another day without a jacket. It couldn't have turned that much, and it's just different priorities to, like, the information is there, like you say, but you're kind of giving priority to the experience, and she's giving priority to, well, having heard it on the radio or seen it on the app or whatever, and it's just two different people going about what they do in their own unique way. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. It's that, and
Yeah.
like the consequences of it. You know, for her, she's like she feels really bad that I'm cold and she's out with me and I'm not, feeling great. But in my mind, it's like, well, it only affects me. I'm the one who's cold, right? And if she had made that same mistake, it's like, sucker, like it's your fault. Wear a coat next time. I don't know, that kind of thing. So it's, yeah, even how you view the outcome of the problem, I guess, kind of shifts how you go about it. Oh, we got you frozen here. Or at least your webcam is frozen. Can you hear me at all, Flashgit? Okay, I might have to boot him and restart it, but, well, we're either waiting for him to reconnect or whatever it is. Nolan, just to address your point, I actually do plan on doing that. I need to restart. See if we can't get him back in. Yeah, I said I was going to do that a long time ago, send out like Discord notifications. Just set up like a bot to do that. So I'll get on that. There we go. Yep, now we can hear you. I think I just finished blabbering.
Sorry,
and
connection problems. It was on my end.
No problem. No problem at all.
Something happened. My router went dead, so I just quickly switched my phone onto a mobile hotspot.
Okay.
Back.
Well, I mean, it probably won't even go like too much longer anyway. We've been going for like an hour or so.
Right.
But, geez, yeah, where did we leave off? Oh, yeah, just kind of the different way that people are approaching the problems.
She's gonna, or she was gonna feel bad about it or something.
Yeah, just basically the outcome of the problem, right? She cares about me. I look at the problem as, I'm the only one who gets cold, so it has nothing to do with her, and yeah, just I don't know. I guess in that case, it's like an empathy thing, and yeah, of course, it's going to change how you view the issue.
Yeah. I think it's nothing wrong with it. If anything, it's it's on you to maybe take a light jacket and not wear it until you need to, or something like that, or have it in a bag or something, and that's how you would resolve it, right? But,
right.
At the same time, it's not even really a thing that needs resolving, right?
No, not really. But it was
exactly.
a really, I don't know, an interesting thing to look at, a simple example. I think that, you can expand to other issues.
Different interpretations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got your point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This has been fun, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. Really, really appreciate you coming on. And I sort of had an inkling that this whole topic, at least starting with, hypnotism and, we got into mental health and all that. I thought it was going to be real interesting, and You didn't disappoint. It's yeah, really insightful.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't go into the hypnosis too much. Obviously, like there is, you know, much more to it. There were no examples or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But everything, the way you can consider it, just to go back to it for briefly, you can consider that, anything you say to someone is a suggestion, right? So, but it depends on like how well it sticks. Kind of depends on like, again, the state and how intense the emotion is, right? So like if somebody, let's say I'm bored and kind of feeling flat and not really intense at all in my emotional state, I'm really kind of flat, and somebody says something like, "Oh, you're an idiot, you're never going to get it," right? I could just shrug that off, and even though it's kind of like a negative suggestion being sent my way, I can just shrug it off and pay no attention to them because I'm not in a intense state. But like if I was, for example, a kid in a classroom, and this is actually a thing that happened. One of my teachers had this person as a client, right? That when they did the regression, he was a kid in the classroom, and they were doing like a reading exercise. Like the class were collectively reading a book, and the teacher would go around, and each child in the class would read like a paragraph, or half a paragraph or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would go to the next person. And this young boy was really stressed or worried, or he wasn't confident in the way he was reading. Maybe he had a stutter or something like that. And it came to his turn to read, and he was hesitating, and he was reading, but it was slow, it was broken up, it wasn't smooth. you know and the teacher went up to him and snapped like a pencil right next to him and said, "You're never gonna get it," really loud, right? Like it's frightening. He's already nervous. And that man did not learn to read his whole life
Jesus.
until after he saw one of my teachers.
Oh, losing him again. I'll finish the story till he saw one of my teachers, and he knew how to read. We'll see if we can't get him back. But might just end up being a good stopping point anyway. Also, thanks, Satur. Thanks for chilling in here this whole time. There we go.
Can you hear me, Dax? I can hear you.
Yep. Yep, we got you back.
Okay,
yeah,
excellent.
Can hear. Yeah, you're
so
saying
where did it cut off?
So didn't learn to read until he saw your teacher.
Yeah, they did the regression. They went back in time. They had the kid realize. Oh my God, is it gone?
No, it's good. No,
Dude.
Socrates is
okay.
cracking jokes at your expense.
I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Right. Okay. So no, it's all good. So yeah, and it wasn't, and he didn't learn to read until like his mid-30s, right?
Yeah, that's
until
wild.
After he had the session, and they did the regression and went back. So the point I was trying to make is the stronger the intensity of the emotion that someone is feeling, the more likely the suggestion you give them in that moment is going to stick for longer, right? And so every time you see, like, as just as a thing, every time you see someone laughing or smiling or feeling good for no reason and in a positive state or whatever, you could give them a suggestion. You could say things like, life is only going to get better for you, or like, keep positive. You're really spreading good positive vibes right now, and that kind of thing. And you can actually suggest those things, and if the person is in like I said, in any kind of emotional kind of state with a decent level of intensity, that's going to stick, and it's going to go a long way to just generally making the world a better place.
Right.
Saying a few kind words when you see someone expressing emotion of any kind, even if they were expressing sadness, you could say a few kind words, it's likely to stick because they're feeling the emotion at that time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's a cool thing that anybody can do, right?
I love that because I mean the story you told obviously like a pretty extreme example somebody not learning till or to
Yeah.
read until their adult life, but I think like lots of people, whether it's them or their classmates or whatever, you see lots of cases of children who children are very very emotional, they're learning, they're developing, and small actions like that by parents, teachers, whatever, they can have this huge impact. Bullying, things like that. But I love that you frame it as the, you know, even forgetting about all that negative stuff, just how much good you can do with it. Like, some of your best experiences in life. Maybe you're at a party or out at the pub or whatever it is, and if everyone's getting along and laughing and kind of reinforcing each other or whatever, it's just you feed off of that energy, and those are the moments that stick with you. So I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Well,
stay positive, people. I think are we wrapping up soon?
I think let's wrap it up there. Good note to
Yeah.
end it on as well. I like that. And the internet issues kind of forcing our hand a bit, but timing kind of works out anyway. So
it's okay.
Yeah, I guess big thank you to.
It's been great fun, man. Thanks for having me. And just everybody stay positive. We've been through tough times past sort of 2 years, and just stay positive. There's plenty more good times to come for all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the positive note to end on, and so big thank you to you. Big thank you, everyone on Twitch, anyone on YouTube who's watching this. Would love to continue doing these things. I don't have anybody lined up next. Sakrasta, you're the one I have in mind. If you're ever interested, let me know. Otherwise, I'm cool to take on kind of anybody. I think everybody here is pretty interesting. They always generate interesting conversations. So, just a big thanks for all this, and everyone enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving if you're in the States, or if you're watching the VOD of this. Hopefully it went well, and we'll see you another time.